Okay, I guess we're all here. We do have a quorum confirmed, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with introductions. Kim? I'd like to get you.
John Gaffney from the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District.
Chris Barney with SETCA.
Matt Wilcox with Santa Rosa City Bus.
Colin Toma, Disability Services and Listen to.
Dana Trey with SETCA.
Jessica Alcazar, Mobility Manager for Aging and Disability Resource Unit.
Steph Britt, SETCA.
Angela Conti, Santa Rosa resident and Seniors with Disabilities rep. Okay, we're going to start with public comments. Do we have any public
We'll ask anyone
online
to raise their hand if they would like to provide public comment. I do not currently see any hands raised.
Okay, we can skip through that. Number 3, approval of meeting notes from November and January? From November and January. Nothing? Okay.
We need a second.
Second.
Did we get a second?
Colin.
Okay. Okay, election of officers, and there's an action on that. Oh, sorry, on number 3 for approval of meeting notes, motion carried.
Hold on, we didn't vote, sorry. All those in favor?
Oh.
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstention? See that passing.
Motion carried. Okay, now we're at election of officers.
Oh, that's me. So as you saw in the agenda, every January we elect officers. And what we're looking for at this point is a nominee and someone to move to nominate someone for chair. And then we all vote in favor or opposed. And then we nominate a vice chair. We all vote in favor or opposed and then move on. And now we have a quorum, so we can vote on this. So if we could have a motion for the TPCC chair for the rest of this calendar year, we'd love to hear that.
Maybe to start with nominations, if people have any when they would like to nominate or if they would like to nominate themselves, that's also acceptable.
We need a chair and a vice chair.
Yeah.
Those two, and the chair is spots, usually gets to leave. And the vice chair, spot to be a yeah,
Correct.
Full responsibility. Okay.
Yeah. And Angela expressed that she's open to another year. So a nominee would be great.
You nominate.
Second.
All second.
And now we vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So on that action, we have
All in favor, so motion carries.
the motion carried. Okay,
And now we nominate a vice chair.
right. Can we nominate somebody who's not here?
We can, and we can do it with a caveat that they have to accept the nomination.
I'm going to nominate Mohammed again.
And any other nomination?
Just make sure your mic is.
Sorry, any other nominees? Okay, all those in favor of Mohammed?
Right.
Aye.
Oh, no, hold on. We need a motion to,
Motion for Muhammad.
with the caveat that he accepts.
Second.
Got that?
Aye.
Okay. We're done on that one. All right, next we are going to go with coordinated planning for year 2027. And there's going to be another action on this. This is Dana's.
Just gonna pull up some slides. Phone browser. No, I can do it from here. I just slideshow view. All right. So the item in your agenda packet is an annual item that we bring to this committee as well as to our Transit Technical Advisory Committee every year. And we ask for the committees to make a recommendation to our board adopting the coordinated claim for transit funding. There's a lot of details in the agenda item, as well as in the document itself. There's a lot of numbers and formulas, so I'm going to do my best to summarize it here for you all, especially those who are a little bit less familiar with it. So the coordinated, I'm just going to give an overview of the coordinated claim, the fund distribution formulas, and then the 3 fund sources that are included in the coordinated claim. So just kind of as an overview, because various different fund sources are identified by kind of county-wide, the SETCA is charged with deciding how those funds are distributed among the different transit agencies in Sonoma County. So these are all the transit agencies that are part of the coordinated claim. We have Santa Rosa City Bus, Petaluma Transit, Sonoma County Transit, Golden Gate Transit, and SMART. And those, all of those operators have various fund sources distributed to them through the coordinated claim. The coordinated claim then goes to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and it is a basis for how the operators make their allocation requests throughout the upcoming fiscal year. So the funds in the coordinated claim are based on estimates, and they do get trued up based on actual revenues at the state level throughout the year. But again, this helps the operators set their budgets for the upcoming year and what MTC can allocate to them through these different fund sources. Okay, so I just described that. It also, documents some inter-operator funding agreements between the transit operators. So, funds are distributed based on formulas to the operators, and then there's some agreements where there's exchanges within the coordinated claim. So actual money doesn't have to be exchanged. It's just moved through the coordinated claim for various things. Some of the examples of these are operations of transit malls. So for example, the city of Santa Rosa, their transit mall is used by many different transit operators, and they pay to maintain and staff the transit mall. And so the operators who use the transit mall pay Santa Rosa through the coordinated claim. There's also some interoperator exchanges for certain transit routes. And this year, starting this year, we have some interoperator exchanges for the implementation of the mascots plan, which is the Marin and Sonoma Coordinated Transit Service Plan. So the funds are distributed through formulas, and the formula in this coordinated claim were adopted by our board in July 2025. We did have our board go through a process to actually adopt the formulas because we had revised them pretty substantially. And based on work and discussions that went on through the mascots plan. And there were also some funding exchanges specifically for the mascots plan that are documented in the coordinated claim. So our board did adopt those funding formulas. They essentially are based on performance metrics and between the regional operators and the local operrators. So looking at the ridership as well as the amount of service that's out there to distribute the funds based on performance between the regional and local operators. The local operators still have some distributions that are based on their share of the countywide population. So it's just another metric that we use. And as I mentioned earlier, there are funding exchanges for implementation of the mascots plan. And also included in that formula distribution is kind of a 15% cap on regional transit share. Not a hard cap, but really if services change to a degree that we saw over 15% going to regional operators, our board would need to review the formulas again. And we are not there through this coordinated claim. It's below 15%. So just a quick update on what the revenues are in the coordinated claim. We have estimates for FY 26-27, and we also have some revised estimates based on actuals to date for the FY 26 funds. And the Transportation Development Act, which is the largest source of funding in the coordinated claim, and for most transit operations or local transit operations, the revised estimates went down about 915,000. So it's pretty substantial, substantially lower than what it was originally estimated. But if you look at the revised estimates versus the upcoming fiscal year estimates, there was a slight increase, about 1.6%, which is kind of, it's good to see an increase, but it's not as much as we like to see year over year. So kind of just going into each fund source, the Transportation Development Act, as I mentioned earlier, this is the largest source of operating funds for the local bus operators. It comes from a 1/4 cent statewide sales tax. And for the upcoming fiscal year, this would be a distribution of about $27.8 million. And again, this is first divided between Golden Gate Transit and the local bus operators based on performance. And then the local bus operators share is then divided between the 3 local bus operators based on their share of the countywide population. And then we have the state transit assistance funds, which is from revenue from vehicle fuel tax. And that's collected statewide. And then a portion of that is part of this coordinated claim and at SCTCA's discretion on how it's distributed. This is about 7 million. And similar to TDA, it's first divided between the regional and local operators, although SMART does receive STA funds, whereas they don't receive TDA funds. So it's divided between SMART, Golden Gate, and the local bus operators based on performance. And then through both a combination of performance and population-based shares for the local bus operators. And then we have the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, which is revenue from the state's cap and trade auctions. And a portion of those funds under the LC top are part of the coordinated claim and at SCTCA's discretion on how those are distributed. So that's about 1.3 million. And similar to STA, it's divided between Smart, Golden Gate, and the local bus operators based on performance, and then distributed among, or the local bus share is divided between the 3 local operators based on their share of the population. So this is just an overall summary of the transit funds. Together, these three fund sources equal about 36 million. And this shows all the fund sources kind of after those interoperator agreements. And then we also document, just for informational purposes in the coordinated claim, some other fund sources that are kind of not part of the action that our board takes, but they're for information. And those are kind of the other portion of the STA funds, which we call the revenue-based fund portion, and then other portion of the LC top funds, which are the revenue-based portion. We also have the Go Sonoma Act funds for transit operations. And those are mostly for, reference for the transit operator, so that all of those are shown in one document. So that is my general summary. Let me stop sharing screen here, but happy to bring it back up if somebody has questions. We did take this item to the Transit Technical Advisory Committee last week, and it was approved there. So we're now asking this committee for a recommendation on the coordinated claim to our board. So the transit operators vote on this item at the Transit Technical Advisory Committee, but at the Transit-Paratransit Coordinating Committee, the transit operators are actually not allowed to vote on this. They've essentially already put in their votes, right? So we are just asking non-transit members of this committee to make a recommendation to our board.
So would it be Kim, Colin, Jessica, and Angela?
That is correct, yes.
And that's enough for quorum. Or-
So we need a quorum of the non-transit members to vote on this item. Which I believe there's not anyone missing, right?
Just to clarify
Mhm.
what we're voting on.
Yeah.
We're voting on just the overall budget, or are we voting on specific pieces?
Yeah, so it's we're voting on the overall coordinated claim. It follows a formula that was already adopted by our board, but it is part of the process to come to this committee to review and make a recommendation on the coordinated claim. Yeah, so it's
Being recommended by the board, and the key stakeholders have been aligned in terms of project numbers. A motion to approve that.
So is it recommend that the board approve, or do we?
it would be recommend that the board approve.
The motion to recommend that the SCTA board approves the coordinated claim.
I motion to recommend. Coordinated claim.
Excellent.
I do want to make sure there's an opportunity for public.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you'd like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand. if you're able to, and I'll unmute you. Seeing none, we can move on. I just want to make sure we had an opportunity.
I second.
Jessica. And then we do. And then we do a roll call vote.
I don't
Okay.
think we necessarily need to do a roll call, but you could just say any or all in favor and any opposed.
Anyone?
You could say all, ask all in favor and any opposed.
Okay. All those in favor and any opposed regarding Kim, Colin, Jessica, and myself?
Okay, good.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? No. Okay. Looks like it passed.
Yes. Okay. Great. And now we go to item 6.
Item 6, okay, that's me. I'm gonna read this and please bear with my dyslexia. I am excited that we'll be hearing today from one of my other transportation groups about their work improving mobility for adults, older adults and people with disabilities. This is the Master Plan for Aging Transportation Action Team, which is doing important work, and I believe there are strong opportunities for our two groups to collaborate. One of the key areas they are exploring is mobility management and how agencies can better coordinate transportation services to meet people's needs. Next slide. Before we get into transportation, I'd like to give a quick reference or refresher on the Master Plan for Aging. The Master Plan for Aging is a statewide initiative in California that encourages counties to plan for the needs of older adults and people with disabilities. In 2024, the Board of Supervisors adopted Sonoma County's Master Plan for Aging with the goal of improving the quality of life and independence for our rapidly growing older adult population. In Sonoma County, this effort is coordinated by the Adults and Aging Division of the Human Services Department and is organized into 6 action teams. They are housing, transportation, economic security, health, caregiving, and equity and inclusion. In addition, there are also 2 geographic action teams in Cloverdale and Sonoma. Each action team works to develop projects that collaborate with community partners with a focus on improving coordination, access, and service delivery. Next slide. Regarding the transportation action team, the team includes 12 volunteer professionals and community members who meet monthly with memberships from Catholic Charities, Sebastopol Senior Center, SCTA, the TPCC, Area Agency on Aging, the City of Petaluma, and the community of Cloverdale. I also want to mention that TPCC members Kathleen, Dana, and Stephanie, and also Jessica now, are also part of the team, which is a great example of the overlap between our two groups. Now I'd like to introduce our Sonoma County Mobility Manager, Jessica Alcazar, who will go into the details of our activities. Take it away, Jessica.
Hello, everyone, and I want to be very transparent that I don't love presenting, so bear with me. I will be discussing kind of my role as it's been developed with the Aging and Disability Resource Unit. So MTC had suggested that every county have a mobility manager, and so Adult and Aging was able to apply for the 5310 grant to fund my position, where right now these are the requirements that you see on the screen. So far, we have implemented the kind of one-stop shop for resources through our information and assistance line where the social workers can refer to me or give me the call, and I can then connect directly with the community and then connect them to the local resources that we have, whether that is through our Santa Rosa City Bus, Paratransit, or our nonprofits that we have in the community. The other thing is that part of my position is also now documenting unmet needs. So whenever I have a transportation need that doesn't have a resource that can fit it, or is just out of service scopes for our local agencies, then I report those. And with collaboration from Kathleen, she also reports it to our grant funders. Part of the areas of growth that we are hoping to expand are collaborating with the local agencies. So the part where it says inform transit operators and transportation planners about gaps and enhancing resources for our aging and disability resource hub guides, that would be in collaboration with you guys that are here. Right now, my grant is specifically to meet the demographic needs of people with disabilities and older adults. So that will be part of the discussion further along, where we would have more reach against or through the community and meeting different demographics through our local agencies. So this is, oh, my apologies. This is kind of how we see my position. I am a bridge to both resources, local agencies, also travel training and fare subsidy. While fare subsidy and travel training are not necessarily something that I provide directly, or even transportation, I'm not the one that provides the rides directly. I am the one there to bridge the gap of being able to connect them to the right resource. Our local agencies all provide travel training, so I inform the community member of how they can do that. And also with fare subsidy, we do have the 5310 transportation voucher, which is not intertwined with my position, but is something I have access to. So if we're able to have them meet the requirements, then they can utilize that as a resource. Oh, sorry. Part of the next slide is the Mobility Management Collective, which is the idea of myself, nonprofits. It would be a group of agencies that would be able to meet on a regular basis. So, sorry, give me one second. It would be a slight shift to the mobility manager model that I shared on the side. In it, we still have a collective of transportation providers and mobility manager. However, instead of the mobility manager and the sole connector between the transportation services and community members, every transportation provider shares a common responsibility to convene regularly, share data to improve services, and provide cross-partner education cross-partner education, collectively solve problems, and potentially even adopt a shared data system. Currently, we lack county-wide funding, which is the difference between me being able to serve like people that are older adults and people with disabilities that support transportation needs for everyone. As our model exists, in my position, I can connect older adults and people with disabilities to travel resources, but we want to be able to have a further reach and expand the mobility management role. Through our work together as an action team and through my work as the county's mobility manager, 3 low barrier and high impact opportunities have risen to the surface. Each of these is an opportunity to seed a mobility management collective. We've heard again and again that when people have challenges or unmet transportation needs, there's no common place where these are routinely heard and discussed. We know we can't fix or address all unmet needs, but in coming together as a collective, we can work across public and nonprofit transportation providers to brainstorm solutions and creative approaches. Making a case to partners and funders requires data, which is where being able to gather together, we would be able to advocate further for that. We can share data on commonly requested rides and rides that are routinely not fulfilled, and can help identify our collective strengths and challenges. We would need consistent communication, and it does not have to be monthly, but it could be bi-monthly, as the providers convening can help us better understand each other's services and create systems to provide consistent support to the community. So I am here to ask, what are some of the benefits to working between the Master Plan for Aging and TPCC? And how could this strengthen mobility for older adults and people with disabilities? And then the second question would be, how might the MPA Transportation Action Team partner with the transit through TPCC to develop a mobility management collective?
Yeah, I want to say that these are populations that really need a lot more hand-holding for services integration. So I think, the thing that I think we bring to the table is trying to make it easier for you guys to meet the needs of those specific populations. I'm really curious about thoughts on like a monthly meeting for something like this, for this sort of integration, if you see that useful from your side of things. Or any other comments about how we can work together.
Being element of it, maybe and make it a quarterly meeting, like a less frequent meeting with some reporting in between. And I do think we probably all have certain resources we can be pointing you towards. We may even be able to get some data back to you on the program. I'm just thinking in my case, right? So, we have some access for all grant funding we just got from Marin County that just would help support wheelchair accessible trips for any rides that are either starting or ending in Marin County, so it could pass over into Sonoma County. And so I might, one, we make sure that's a tool in your toolkit. Two, we have some way of sort of bringing the data back to support your program so it's ongoing.
I think that would be part of the goals for the Mobility Management Collective, is that we would have a consistent, regular space to be able to do exactly that, where we're sharing data, we're sharing funding resources so that we can kind of all help each other find solutions to some of the unmet needs, or if we're having kind of double services in certain areas or demographics, then we can figure out a way to reallocate those resources.
Because we're really big on data collecting too, so
Yeah.
Going
This
both
is the
ways.
Sonoma County system.
Correct.
Yes.
I think I think having more data sharing, like the grant you guys are on the win, if we're going to trying to get more grants to be fun, that'd be good. Monthly meetings also good. And then in terms of what anybody was doing is the community-based alternative transportation rides are really good. But explaining that to serve the county better, just because there's still large populations of the county that are in a couple of areas that don't get paratransit service, that still need that community-based alternative transit. Some like it's basketball only serves West County, so it'd be West County and connection to Santa Rosa. Some more one seat rides would be good. And we helping with medical rides both in county and out of county. As out of county trips can get quickly expensive, very quick, expensive, really quick, and a lot of them need that one door, or door service.
And I think that's part of the idea, is that if we have, transit agencies as part of this mobility management collective, then we can discuss things like the service areas where there might be some gaps, or being able to discuss future plans that they might have. Because right now there's not necessarily a platform where we're doing that consistently.
Yeah, I think too, also there's a real opportunity to be all the master plan for aging action teams, being a funnel of information for those populations so that they can come to us and then we can send them out in the community and be able to direct them to the resources out there that really, keeps them engaged in using the services. So I can see that really happening with transportation as well, especially as we're all trying to push people out of their cars. This is a population that's definitely going to, be moving out of their cars and into public transportation. Okay. Are we going to wrap it up then with that and move on? Any other questions on master plan for aging or comments?
I think my question would be, how do you guys feel about that? Like, I know that you guys have a lot on your own agendas, and so would that feel doable having a mobility management collective for everyone?
I see a
I'd love
couple
to
of
heir.
heads of okay.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't
I mean, if I
take too much time.
by the time on the schedule, I could do it. I can talk to Jordan, my program director, about it. Maybe he can join. I
Mhm.
can't remember, but I think having some kind of program in county to just get this program started would be good. And just to be that resource so against things they do need transit help. And it's a little less common to get requests for assistance gain within transit with the county that's more outside county, and those who don't have Medicare to get trips is where we see a lot of calls.
Mhm.
I do.
Yeah.
I haven't been great about this meeting because.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be subject to Brown Act, so it would be a little easier. Also, what cadence of meetings would people like that's sustainable and productive? Like monthly, every 2 months, quarterly?
Monthly, maybe bi-monthly. And then, depending on how long we meet, maybe like an hour-ish. I think that's probably this. Be good, either for busy schedules.
Yeah, maybe do a survey of availability and interest, and so we'll be reaching out and contacting everybody and seeing if we can set something up. Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Let's keep it going.
Do you have a public comment? I can break in. Ken, I am unmuting you currently. You may begin speaking when you unmute yourself.
Did this work?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'm Ken Rossi. I use paratransit and fixed route. I might not be on topic here, but I was wondering, can we merge somehow with Uber or Lyft? I know it's kind of a stretch, but I know they do like instant rides. I know they're not always accessible, but I was just curious if they could partner with that somehow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Ken.
mean, that is something that we've been currently kind of working on already. We've met with Uber and talked about possibly servicing medical rides or what their service areas look in Sonoma County. So that is already happening.
And maybe a little bit of education and training of those drivers on how to work with seniors and disabled people, so they're a little more comfortable.
And I also may work with Uber Lyft to see if they can increase accessible vans, because that's an issue. Is not only is it's a club, but there's a lack of accessible vans for those who have walkers, wheelchairs, stuff like that. I don't know how much this group would do it, but I think getting that conversation started of we see a couple that getting up here.
Our platform enables for rides, which are basically what you talked about in wheelchair. So we're doing a turnkey program for places like City of Hayward to have, we'll be able to get all of that.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I'm wondering if this might be a good venue, like in the beginning, to help formulate kind of ideas and data needs for this collective and with some, yeah, I mean, and then of course, if more frequency is needed or those kind of more casual conversations, maybe that an offline,
Do it-
regular meeting
do it-
in addition, right? So yeah, I think that's what I can recall the conversation, being around at the Master Plan for Aging Transportation Committee, but just wanted to, yeah, get your
Yeah.
thoughts on that and maybe the transit operators' thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a good idea to be able to merge the groups if possible, where we have some of the nonprofit partners here, since they are already working kind of cohesively with paratransit and the local city transit. So, I mean, I think the only difference is the Brown Act and having quorum. But I joined shortly, so. give
Wouldn't
me-
necessarily be voting on items. We would have a productive discussion. We could have standing item in the agenda and people can zoom in if it's easier for them. Yeah, that could work very well.
If, if members could be added to the committee, members of the board or member of the public where we can have a conversation in these bi-monthly meetings. Maybe we meet monthly and then we have a say in agenda updates in these bi-monthly meetings.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, I think we're with Chris now. Comprehensive Transportation Plan
Yeah.
discussion.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Barney with SETCA. So I'm happy to be here today to talk about our Comprehensive Transportation Plan, or CTP for short. So I believe we've brought a number of intermediate reports on the plan to you over the last year and a half. We have a draft that was released in January, so I'm happy to be here to present on that today. So let me go ahead and get this going here on the screen. Let's get full screen there. There we go. A little bit of delay. But yeah, starting out with what our comprehensive transportation plan is. So first off, it's a high level look at transportation in Sonoma County, which outlines a vision for what we want our transportation system to look like in the future, and also identifies goals and actions that'll help us get there in the future. It identifies priority transportation projects, programs, and policies. So there's a big project list in the plan, which all of the transit providers and local jurisdictions have contributed to. They've identified priority transportation improvements across the county. Those are highlighted in the plan. It also helps guide our future transportation funding and long-term planning decisions. And it's a reference document as well. So it includes a lot of information on our current and future transportation system, demographics, trends, travel behavior, a lot of data and charts and things like that. So two things to note. Countywide transportation plans like our CTP and that are developed in other counties across the Bay Area feed into the regional transportation plan. So this plan will feed into the next regional transportation plan, which is known as Plan Bay Area in the Bay Area. And the next version of that is tentatively named Plan Bay Area 2060. And then we're required to have a document that guides our funding and programming decisions. So the CTP meets that requirement for SETCA. So just a little bit about the cadence of updating the plan. We update it every 4 to 5 years to make sure it's still current and represents the priorities and goals and thinking of our board of directors and also you as local jurisdictions and transit providers. So, and we really build on what we've learned as part of each plan update. So we've been working on this since the summer of 2024. We've had a number of intermediate steps and we released the draft in January. So we're happy to have that out and available for review right now. So we focused on these different areas as part of this plan update. We went out and talked to the public and refreshed our public outreach and engagement to get an idea of what current priorities are across the county for transportation in Sonoma County. We also reported out on any progress we'd made in achieving our goals since the last plan. We performed a performance analysis that looks at where we'll be in the future and how we may be able to reach our vision and goals in the future. We updated all the reference sections of the plan, so a lot of good information in there. We updated that list of priority projects and actions in the plans. We work closely with local jurisdictions and transit providers to update that list. And then one thing we'll be doing as part of this plan update is looking at what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. So identifying priority projects and actions that we can work on over that time period. So moving on to the vision and goals that guide the plan and that we use to guide our work here at SETCA. So the vision is really focused on connecting people with where they want to go. So not necessarily moving cars, bikes, or vehicles, but making sure people can get to where they want to go, get to work, get to school, see friends, things like that. So mobility and access are really the key factors there. Also, very important is moving to a zero emissions transportation network by 2050. So another key component of our future vision. So we've identified 3 different guiding principles to help us move in that direction. One is to prioritize safety, equity, and quality of life. So we've identified 4 goals to help us reach that vision, and it's really focused on how we want our transportation to be now and in the future. And the first goal is really, again, focusing on those connections. So working on accessibility and getting people to where they want to go, but making sure it's reliable as well. So that includes having a well-maintained and a well-working transit, road, and non-motorized system. So also very important that our transportation system is safe and well-maintained. So we have a very valuable resource. We want to make sure it's available going out into the future and people can use it safely. Every time we get out into the community and talk to people, safety is a very important issue we hear about. Also very important that our transportation system is community oriented and place-based. So the plan focuses on regional connections, so connecting us to the rest of the region and state, but also looking to improve mobility in the different place types in our county. We have a very diverse county, including rural communities, suburban, and urban areas as well. So we need a broad and diverse approach to mobility and transportation in our county. And again, moving towards that zero emissions transportation network in the future. That's a zero emissions transportation system is one of our 4 goals. So looking at the content in the plan, there are 7 chapters and a number of appendices, so a lot of information in there. So I'll touch on some of the content in the next few slides. So starting with our engagement approach. So I mentioned we've been building on past CTPs as we've been updating and developing this plan. And I think most of us have heard of the concept of survey or outreach fatigue. So people are being asked to provide feedback and weigh in on all sorts of different projects, right? And there are all sorts of planning exercises going on in the county and across the region. People may answer 1 or 2 of these, and it's kind of annoying to have to answer over and over and say the same thing, right? So we want to try and be a little more efficient in our outreach. So we've taken a 3-step approach to try and address some of those issues. And the first of which was looking at recent planning and outreach documents and trying to gather what people have already been saying. So we did an overview or looked through general plans, short-range transit plans, all sorts of planning and outreach documents that have been completed or that are underway right now, and identified major themes that people have been identifying that are important to them in transportation. So you can see this word cloud on the slide identifies some of those. I'll just highlight a few of those issues Safety has come up all the time recently, maintaining what we have. The cost and time of travel is very important. Transit, walking, biking, those are a few of the major issues that we identified as part of that survey. So another thing we did is we reviewed our outreach and engagement for past CTPs and looked at surveys we've conducted for some of our revenue measures. And again, we saw many of the similar types of themes come up, like time is very important. It takes too much time to get to where you want to go. Our transportation system harms the environment. It needs to be better maintained. Costs too much, isn't safe enough. So very similar themes. So we used these themes to construct our outreach materials and engagement materials for actually getting out into the community and talking to people, because we wanted to make sure they'd been heard before and we weren't retreading the same ground over and over again. So we found that pretty effective in going out with, hey, we've heard this. Is this still relevant? So the third step was getting out into the community and tabling and attending workshops and hosting an online survey and checking in on these issues to see if they're still relevant and still consistent with people's priorities for transportation in Sonoma County. And so to summarize that, here are the major themes that we've heard in this recent round of engagement up top, and then the common themes overall across all of those different planning efforts down below. So just looking at the new outreach, we're hearing a lot of support for prioritizing public transit and active transportation, a real desire to make transportation in general safer. There's a desire to improve transit reliability and access to the station. So really addressing that first last mile issue, getting people better access to bus and train stations. We heard a lot of support for electrification and electric vehicles, but that there needs to be better charging options. And there's a cost issue with electric vehicles as well. So incentives could be important there. We heard a lot of interest in electric bikes and other shared mobility options. We heard good and bad things about that. So there are a lot of opinions, but definitely something that's going to be important in transportation in the next little while. So we need to continue to watch that. There are a lot of opportunities there, and we need to, there are some issues that need to be resolved with e-bikes too. So we'll continue to work on that. We definitely need to continue to work on equity and accessibility as we implement transportation across the county. And we're still hearing that congestion is an issue, particularly in rural areas at certain times of day or around schools during pickup and drop off periods. So those are the newer things we heard. So looking at those and what we've seen across those past efforts as well, the top 5 themes are people want to be able to get around quicker, right? Faster travel. There's support for cleaner transportation options. Travel should be safe and cost less, and we need to maintain the infrastructure we have. So those are the top 5 things that we keep hearing. So the next chapter digs into travel trends and demographics. So this leans pretty heavily on our travel behavior study, the U.S. Census, and regional plans. So a lot of great information in there, a lot of charts and graphs and graphics. So I won't go through all of what's in there. I encourage you to dig in if you're interested. And hopefully there'll be some interesting information in there. But just a few of the highlights there. 90% of travel in Sonoma County stays in the county. We're expecting our population to continue to age. So that's a trend that's definitely continuing. We're very focused on single occupant vehicles still here in Sonoma County. So something we'll continue to work on. And then looking at growth in the future, we're expecting it to be relatively moderate. So not huge booms of growth going forward in the county. So we also have a very robust section on the existing and future transportation system. So we have a very multimodal system, including roads, active transportation facilities, rail, bus, things like that. So we have a lot of great information in there on those systems, but also discussions on emerging technologies, so how they could change transportation in our county. So a lot of great reference material there. So moving on to the list of projects. So I mentioned that the CTP identifies priority projects and actions in the county. So we worked closely with local jurisdictions and transit providers to identify different projects for the county and transportation improvements. So I would note that the project list is financially unconstrained. So that means we don't have money identified for all of those projects. So the estimated cost for all of those priority projects is just over $17 billion. And we have just under 5 billion of that identified. And most of that 5 billion is ongoing transit operations that are coming from ongoing revenue streams. So looking at the 5 largest projects in there are a few Highway 37 projects, a few large smart projects, including ongoing operations and making connections to the east and west, and then maintaining the largest road system in the county, which is the unincorporated county. So pretty big price tag there. So here's a look at the total project list. So over 300 projects across a number of different project types. You can see there's quite a variety and diversity there, including active transportation projects, transit, road improvements, all sorts of different types of projects there. So they're in the appendix. There's a good amount of detail on each individual project that you can go through. And we also have an online project list that you can sort, filter, and search. So I mentioned our performance assessment. So that is a process of using tools such as our travel demand model and other data and tools to really estimate how transportation will change over into the future and how these different projects and improvements will help us achieve our CTP goals and vision. So I'll just highlight some of the things we saw in that performance assessment. The first of which is that the CTP includes quite expansive increases in transit riders or transit service. So a 30% increase in service through 2050. So big increase in the number of buses and trains actually moving people around. And that really pays off. So we plugged in those transit service improvements and saw a 65 increase in ridership. So a big increase in people taking the bus and train. The plan also really expands our bicycle and pedestrian system and particularly focusing on separated facilities, so which would make things safer and help reduce some of the conflicts between people walking, biking, and driving. So we're also seeing vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas production trending down over time. So, but we're still have a ways to go to reaching our goal of zero emissions. We're seeing pavement condition trending up, so we need to continue to invest there. And then on the safety side, we're seeing collisions trend down recently. So we need to continue to focus on the good things we're doing, looking at speed reductions, vision zero approaches, and corridor safety improvements to see that continue. And then we're expecting congestion and travel times to stay about the same with the CTP. But if we don't implement any of those improvements, it'd go up quite a bit more. So those are kind of the highlights of the performance assessment, more information in the actual plan. So looking at implementation, we identified a number of opportunities and challenges to implementing our vision and making progress in those goals. The first of which is 60% of trips in the county are under 5 miles. So those are great. There are a lot of great opportunities there to shift those trips to transit, walking, and biking. So something we can continue to work on and promote there. Again, almost 90% of our trips stay in the county, so we're pretty self-sufficient. Jurisdictions and agencies here have been focusing on city-centered growth. So we have urban growth boundaries, and a lot of the future growth is focused around transit stops. So that'll help us encourage people to walk, bike, and take transit more. Looking at working from home, so we haven't seen that reduce emissions or VMT yet because people kind of shift their travel around at different times of the day, but that could help reduce congestion in the peak period, so during rush hours. So Some potential benefits from working from home that we've seen. That's been a big trend since the pandemic. And then there are opportunities for emerging technologies like automation, increased electrification, and things like that to help us make some progress if we do it thoughtfully and guide that those technologies. So looking at challenges, our land use patterns relatively mature in the county. So, and it's pretty difficult to navigate without a car in many parts of our county. As I mentioned before, travel is focused on single occupant vehicles. So we've made a little bit of headway in that area, but still it's very auto focused. Emergency events in the county, such as flooding and wildfire, really impact travel patterns during those events and damage our infrastructure. And then we have a pretty big funding gap in implementing a lot of those projects. So some of the things we need, we'll be contending with to implement the plan. So moving on to recommendations for implementation, we need additional funding to implement those good projects, both on the transit, non-motorized, emissions reduction and maintenance side. We need to continue to prioritize equity, continue to emphasize city-centered growth so we can really support active transportation and transit. We have a strategic travel demand management plan, so we need to work on implementing that to reduce trip production. We have those opportunities to shift short trips from automobiles to walking, biking, or other active modes. So those trips under 5 miles. There are opportunities to make our transportation system more efficient. So through technology or other approaches. One thing we can do to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions is to improve the average fuel economy of our vehicle fleet by shifting to electric vehicles or more efficient vehicles. So again, something we'll continue to promote. We can shift freight to rail where appropriate. So opportunities there to reduce our emissions and impacts on our transportation system. Again, we can thoughtfully implement transportation technologies, including automation, freight delivery improvements, remote work, things like that. And then, as I mentioned before, we can look at what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. So the span of the CTP is 25 years. So, but we'd like to see what we can focus on what we can do in the near term as well. So looking briefly at next steps, we're taking public comments on the plan through March 23rd. So you can email those to me, or we have a comment form on our website, which is linked here and in the staff report in the agenda packet. So thank you if you've commented already, or thank you if you comment in the next week. So comments close on Monday. We'll be using those comments to develop the final CTP, which we're looking to release in May or June. So we're still working on that schedule. So we've got a lot of great comments. So that'll inform any changes we'll make to the final CTP. And then this summer and fall, we'll really be looking at what we can do in the next 5 to 10 years. So that'll include capital project implementation and construction and different policy actions we can take in the next near term to move the needle in achieving our vision and goals. So again, the draft CTP is available on our website. There's a link in the staff report and here, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments. So I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
I have a question. If you've already commented, can you go and add to re-comment?
I
As
don't
new
think you
things
can
come up?
add to your previous comment, but we definitely welcome any additional comments, or you can send me an email if you'd like. But yeah, we'd love to hear any additional comments if something new occurred to you in the meantime. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to mascots engagement, and Dana will be taking that one.
Alright, and I am going to share my screen again. And, just a moment. me see that. All right, so I presented the mascots or the Marin Sonoma Coordinated Transit Service Plan to this group back in July. At that point, it was a draft plan and was going through a public engagement process. The plan has since been finalized and adopted by the transit agencies with the most major service changes included in the plan. So that's Golden Gate, Smart, and Marin Transit. And the service changes are going into effect on April 12th. So I just wanted to provide an update, a kind of reminder on what those changes are and some resources. So in your agenda packet, there's a link to the new Smart Train schedule that will be going into effect on April 12th. There's also a link to the new Golden Gate schedules that will be going into effect on April 12th. So just kind of as a reminder, the mascots plan, the collaborative plan by the 6 transit operators in Marin and Sonoma counties, as well as the 2 county transportation authorities and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. So the purpose of it was to analyze transit services along the Highway 101 corridor, really focused on the regional transit services. Have the plan be kind of look at the travel behavior and work patterns post-pandemic, really look at the ridership and demand for regional transit between the 2 counties, and also between Marin and Sonoma and San Francisco, as well as the East Bay, with the goals to grow ridership and kind of work as if it was one agency, not many agencies, and develop the best service plan for the riders to be most efficient for the riders. So to kind of just summarize the changes that are coming between Smart and Golden Gate Transit's Route 101, which is the kind of all-day service that currently goes between Santa Rosa through Marin County and San Francisco. So Golden Gate Transit Route 101 the service will be redistributed from Sonoma County to Marin County, where the demand is much higher. So increased frequencies in Marin County. And between Novato and Santa Rosa, that regional service is being replaced by increased Smart Train service. So the Route 101 will have increased frequency between San Rafael and San Francisco, where that strong demand is. There'll be all day 30-minute service on weekdays, and with during peak periods, it'd be 15-minute frequencies. And then that service the northern terminus will be in Novato. It will no longer go through Sonoma County. But again, that service between Novato and Santa Rosa will be replaced by increased Smart service. So the Smart Train service will be increased both in frequency and in span. So there'll be 48 weekday trips and 24 weekend trips, which is a 19% increase over the current amount of service. And the span of service will also expand with earlier morning trips and later evening trips. I believe it's about an hour earlier in the morning to roughly an hour and a half later in the evening during the week. And currently there's some gaps in Smart service schedule in the middle of the day, and those will be filled so that on the weekdays, the service will be at least every hour, but during higher use times, it'll be a half hour. And then on the weekends, most of the day, it'll be about an hour service with some periods being a little bit over or about a little over an hour and a half, so 104 minutes. For the Golden Gate Transit commute routes that serve Sonoma County, currently there are 3 routes, the 172, 172 Express, and the 164. Those will be consolidated into one route that will follow the 172 alignment. And we'll have buses running every 20 to 30 minutes during peak periods. And those are buses that, pick up in Sonoma County and are direct to San Francisco during commute times. There's also some changes in Southern Marin and the East Bay. In Southern Marin, routes are streamlined between San Rafael, Marin City, Sausalito, and San Francisco through adjustments to a handful of routes. And from San Rafael to the East Bay, Route 580 will have a more direct service and some added service as well. There will be a kind of from when the service changes on April 12th through the end of June, there will be a transitional late night bus service to provide some more time to really figure out the needs of people who are riding the bus late night. The mascot study showed there were very few riders and also even fewer people who, rode it with any regularity. But to provide kind of more time for people to adjust and also learn more about what people's needs are. Sonoma County Transit will extend their last Route 44 bus that currently ends in Petaluma down to Novato to meet to meet a northbound Route 101 bus and pick up passengers and then have express service back north through Sonoma County to Petaluma, Roanoke Park, and Santa Rosa. And so that will go from April 12th through June 30th. Regional paratransit will continue to be provided by Marin Access. And so that's regional service between Sonoma and Marin, Sonoma and San Francisco, and Sonoma and Contra Costa counties. Although there's no longer an obligation for there will no longer be an obligation for any transit agency to provide that service because it's connected to the Route 101. The agencies felt it was important to maintain the service, and that will continue to be provided through Marin Access as it is today. The fares won't be changed through the 3-year mascots pilot period. And any ideas of changing anything would be revisited and really looked at well before the end of the 3-year pilot. One of the major recommendations in the plan was also just with the focus of SMART being the regional connector between Marin and Sonoma counties, the recommendations for the local bus operators in Sonoma County to better serve SMART with more direct routes and timed connections. There was a change implemented last year by Sonoma County Transit to directly connect the West County service on Route 20 to the Santa Rosa Smart Station. And the 3 local bus operators are continuing to study opportunities to make stronger connections and more direct connections to SMART. So I mentioned the link to the new SMART schedule and the new Golden Gate schedules, which are linked in your agenda packet. There's some information sheets being finalized, and I'm expecting a press release to go out the end of the month. And all the operators are going through their regular channels to notify passengers of these changes. And we'll be really working on getting the word out about these changes that are coming. There's a website for the plan that continues to be active and will be maintained, that kind of shows the bigger picture of the plan and the changes that are coming. So yeah, happy to answer any questions, but really just wanted to provide a reminder of the changes and the details on the changes that are coming in just a few weeks.
Yeah, I have a quick question. How have you been informing the users of the changes coming up?
Yeah, so the transit agencies have been, or they're developing information and they've put schedules out already, but are going to be doing much more direct education to the riders as time gets closer, and with information sheets and through apps that they use, the notifications that riders receive, as well as press release and websites.
And they're thinking
Media.
about being prepared for the onslaught of confusion.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was something I had on my slide, I forgot to mention, but just that the customer service representatives for all the transit agencies are prepared to answer questions about the changes and help people to navigate their routes with the changed services.
Another quick question on the West County kind of providers, transport providers doing studying how to move people towards smart more. What's coming out of the studies? Are you seeing anything there? What direction they're going in?
Yeah, so studies just begun, and Charles may want to chime in on this as well, but that is like really looking at all Sonoma County Transit service.
Yeah.
But in that, looking for opportunities with the routes to better connect, right? So one example was that Route 20 that used to come in from Sebastopol and bypass the SMART station and go to the downtown Santa Rosa Transit Mall, which is then either another bus ride or a walk, decent walk back to the SMART station. So looking at more opportunities to directly connect with the SMART stations, but also within the schedules, how to align better with the SMART schedules, so that it can act more like feeders to the stations.
Yeah, because a lot of that just, it's sort of pivoting needs as they discover them. You can do all the research, but until you implement these changes and you start seeing where the real needs for people are, then you have to be ready to kind of shift. Any other comments? Do we have anybody online about the mascot?
I do not see any public comments, but please use the hand raise feature and we will allow you to speak if you have one.
I did go on the SMART website and the new schedule looks really cool. And as you mentioned, the connection to the bus is highlighted at certain stations, and in addition to just the ferry, and that looks really good.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention, Steph. The new SMART schedule really emphasizes getting to San Francisco on SMART and connecting, you know, not just looking at the ferry connection, but also looking at the bus connections in San Rafael. Because with this change in service, there's going to be a lot more frequent Route 101 service going between San Rafael and San Francisco. So a lot better connections to get from the train to the bus to get to San Francisco.
Yeah, I hear a lot of community buzz around Mascot. I don't know if it's like the name or something that people seem to really, you're getting the word out there. People are aware that these changes are coming up. So, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to roundtable updates. And who would like to start?
Also, not much. We are hosting our annual Aging Disability Resource event. This year it's a little bit earlier. Usually have it around Memorial Day weekend. We're doing it May 8th at Become Independent. I know San Juan trying to come before, and so is Summit County. So everyone that's come before should have gone with the registration form. But if anyone new wants to attend or hasn't gone the form yet, let us know and we can get that to you. Maybe a great event too. It's connected to other organizations, resources in the county.
Not really much to update on. We are just getting ready for all the mascot changes, getting all the materials ready, and getting everything ready for the website where we want to post it. We're also getting ready for any kind of negative feedback we might get, any kind of positive feedback we might get too, because it's a trial service, so we kind of want to see how it works out and then take it from there.
City Bus doesn't have anything substantial at this moment. Just kind of looking into the future in line with mascots. We are doing a strategic planning effort of our local service. This is more to get us in line to connect to SMART to a degree with mascots, but also just to kind of get our system back to, what we need to get a baseline back before COVID happened. We're still below those service levels. So really it's looking at priorities into the future for the fixed route service, because obviously things have changed a lot since then. And we haven't really done a deep dive into that. And hopefully that should wrap up. And if there are changes that fit within the budget available, those would potentially be implemented in August. Don't expect like a system revamp, but more of just trying to get us consistent back on time initially, with more future changes potentially depending on how finances play out.
I don't have a whole lot from the district other than what was already presented.
Briefly earlier that Onward's gotten some grant funding through Access for All. We got that funding in Marin, Alameda, Santa Clara, counties. So might be some, we're still working on some more formal marketing literature about the program and how we can hold riders and support them. So I will get that distributed to this group once that and that's finished.
Kim, Equus is not like the horse. How is that spelled? Equus, you said?
With the Access for All.
Oh, access.
For all, that it's a California Public Utilities fee assessed on all TNC rides that happen in the state of California to help fund more accessible rides. So we orchestrate transportation for about 70% of the hospitals in the Bay Area. And so we've got a lot of wheelchair accessible rides we do for sort of same day on time discharges for those hospitals, and the Access for All funding is designed for really same day accessible wheelchair rides. So that's what that funding is. So what we'll be doing is heavily subsidizing those rides through the program where riders will pay fares that look a lot more like a traditional paratransit fare and get a one-to-one wheelchair accessible ride. So you can not very many service boundary limits. we're working with Robert and Joanna at Marin Transit already on this, in terms of a plan there, but there's probably some crossover.
Anybody else? Well, jumping to future agenda topics, I guess we'll get some updates on the Brown Act. Lots of stuff happening with that out there, so it'll be good to hear what's decided. And of course, let us know if there's any other agenda topics that you want to add. Other business comments, announcements. Speak up quickly.
Next meeting will be May 19th and our next board meeting will be April 13th. I'll throw that in there. And for Brown Act, we're very excited for that. I think that will be essential for TPCC to make it a little easier to zoom in.
Yeah. Okay, I think we are adjourned. Enjoy St. Patty Day.